Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead. I hope y'all are having an absolutely fantastic day because it's planting day and I've got a very specific way I want to plant this bed. I'm going to try something new this year as usual, and again through every season I'm always just trying to tweak a plan, do something new, but I've got to clean this bed out and I got to get it right. This is going to be really set up for the fall season going into winter. What we're doing is we're going to be direct sowing this ground, getting it ready for winter. But I've got, like I said, I've got a really specific way I want to do it. So let me clear this out and then I'll kind of explain to you what my thought process is behind this, and then we can go from there. Say goodbye to the popcorn. We'll see. I don't know. Man, I built a root system here, boy. Just pull all these out a little bit. I have got so many weeds in here, it's absolutely ridiculous. The problem with planting thick is you just can't really get into weeds sometimes. Look at that. That's crazy, isn't it? The thing about corn is I can use it as a decoration afterwards, so I'll dry it out after that rain we had and just let it go. But those root systems are looking pretty good. Probably could have had a little bit more roots on them, but I'm pretty happy with that. I did have one spot that had, you can see I kind of made a little pile here. The hose had a leak in it, and so after the hose it didn't get a lot of water, and you can see how much difference there is in the root systems. Ooh, I just had a bee fly in my ear. My honey flow started and the bees are really active, so it's that time of day. But you know, every opportunity to evaluate what you've grown is just a benefit and will really help you into the future. And so that's what I gotta use this for, is hey, evaluate the root systems, pull them up, see what's going on with them. Especially if you're worried about diseases and funguses and stuff like that, then you can really get a peek at it and see what's going on. And it looked pretty good. So we were able to identify that one issue. So what I've got to do now, first I'm going to have to weed this whole bed, and then I'm going to have to replace this hose, which I nicked earlier in the year with a hoe, and just everything, it was too late. There was already plants growing, so I didn't really want to mess with it too much. So I'm going to have to do that. But let me get this weeded, and then we're going to come back and get it planted. All right, that was a lot more than I wanted to do, but it took like 15 minutes, wasn't a big deal. I get this grass that's popping. Every year I get a different weed. It's super frustrating, but this year it is a grass. So pull it all up, right? So what I did is, well, let me just show you. So I came in and I did the same thing I always do. I dug my rows, I repaired my lines. The lines are ready to be covered at this point. I didn't cover them yet because I wanted to show you that all the white stuff is all fertilizer. So this is my pre-planting fertilizer. Worst case scenario, this could get you through, but this bed's been worked pretty hard, which kind of leads me into this whole thing of this whole video about, being a very specific way of planting this garden. And that really means two different things. One, we obviously know that it's worked real hard, so we are planting this in mind that at some point this winter it will sit empty and it will get to rest over the winter, in which we will come back and we will amend it and all that. So that being said, we're sowing all quick seeding crops, direct sowing crops, and I'll show you what I've got going on here. Actually, they're in my pocket, duh. So first thing is I really enjoy growing. So our rutabaga bed, we're gonna call it a fail. So second in line to rutabaga would be our purple top turnips. So all these seeds we sell in the store. Anything you see with the green thing we sell in our seed shop. Check out link below. So we're gonna do some purple top turnips, direct sow them. They're pretty quick growing, relatively speaking. And then I always grow radishes. Love growing these. It's just really fast. And once I started baking them with olive oil and salt and pepper, it was a total game changer. I got enough of eating them raw. So we're gonna do that. And then last but not least, which could throw a little bit of a hitch in our whole let the bed rest thing, but we're still gonna do it, is we've got a little bit of this spinach left. So we've got a sun angel spinach, so we're gonna do that too. The reason why I say it could throw a hitch in is because it could in theory, go straight through winter. We're gonna find out, because we've set this bed up to be covered with a low tunnel. And so as I get into planting, I will talk a little bit more about that. So what I'm gonna do now, go ahead, I'm gonna cover up these lines, get them buried, and then we're gonna come back and we are gonna use our seeder to use in our to direct sow. And this is actually in the Amazon store if you want to check that out. I love this thing. It works really good for a small garden. A lot of y'all might be no dig, and the one thing I want to say about that is, even if you are like a no-till gardener, it's really beneficial for your garden to do a little light cultivating of the top surface of soil, especially if you're direct sowing, just because it gets that loose soil in there, and it really does make it easier for the plants to set roots and then grow. So I always recommend doing some kind of digging. I don't have, well, actually I do have a little small tiller, but I don't really use it much for my garden. I just don't find it very necessary. Not to say that I wouldn't use it, but it does help for sure. And the other thing it helps too, like with as bad as the weeds were in here, it really helps me get the weeds out of the garden by doing a light cultivation. So don't think that no-till is like never ever disturb your soil. It should be called light till. That's what I think it should be called, but you know what, I didn't come up with it, so there it goes. Okay, so one reason why I just go ahead and put the fertilizer down on top, because now you can see, you don't see it, and it kind of shows me where I've dug and where I haven't dug, or mixed, or cultivated, whatever you want to call it. So this is one reason why I do it. Now we've got, I don't know if you can see, we've got these stakes here, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Stakes are for our low tunnel. So that being said, we are prepared to cover this bed as needed. The spinach doesn't really need to be covered, but the the radishes, they may need to be covered. And to be totally honest, we may try and squeeze in a lettuce planting at some point. I don't really know. I'm not overly concerned right now. We're going to see how far we get with what we got. But that's why we're setting this, we're planting it a little bit different, is because of the low tunnel. This is a little bit about my bed design that I do. So first of all, we know that the wall of the low tunnel is going to be here. I put usually what I do is up in the front of my bed, because this bed is 4 feet wide. So in the front of the bed, what I do is I usually either put the crops that I'm going to have to really like get down and work and harvest, typically it would be my spinach if it was spring, because I'll constantly be cutting it and right here working it. But that's not really how this is going to work for this, because of the cold coming up. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our radishes up front, and we're going to do double rows of radishes on this hose right here. So we'll do a double row of that, and what that'll do is that'll allow us to harvest this first row here. And as the cold comes, and we're going to do the same on the back, we'll harvest something, the first row, and as the cold comes, because the closer you are to the frame, the colder it is. So we want to kind of create that buffer zone around it. And if any leaves touch that frame, it's going to burn that leaf off anyways. So we're going to try and plant it appropriately. If I was smart, I would plant one row first, and then I would come back a week later and plant another row, and that would give me a staggered harvest. The reason why we're not doing that is simply because we don't have a whole lot of time. I don't really want to jack around with the weather and everything. I mean, at this point, we still have like 5 weeks until our first frost, which means we could easily get some nice, steady, solid growth on these plants. Throw a cover on top of them, and you're going even better. So we're really looking into that. But planting it in this way, I think, is going to give a little bit of a buffer. We'll have to see when we do it visually. But let me go ahead and I'll show you how I load the seeder up, and then we will just, we'll get to planting. Okay, so this is the seeder I use, and I really only use this in fall and spring just because I'm not really direct sowing small enough seeds any other time of year. But you can see down in there, there's that disc, and you can change that black disc out to different size for seeds. This one's a little bit big, but we're gonna go ahead and use it because, to be honest, I don't feel like changing it out. But if we were to change it out, basically what you do is you remove the wheel, and there's a bolt here that removes the wheel. Then you remove this, and this has a little thing that slides out, and then this disc will come out, and then you slide another one and you put it back together. It's kind of a pain, but it's not that big a deal. I mean, look, I looked for like wheel hoe or like walk behind seeders and stuff like that were good for like raised beds, and I didn't really find anything. This is made by a Ukrainian company, so it's pretty good. They have a separate one that's for seeders, and they are for like corns and beans, and they have a bigger seeder that does like 4 rows. I just do the single row. It's not a big deal, but when you use it, just remember you got to drag it backwards and not push it forwards. That's the trick. So the next thing we'll do is we're going to do our early scarlet globe radish, and simply enough, we just pour it in. Now you may ask, does this thing waste seeds? I find that it's not perfect, but I can tell you this, when you're direct sowing stuff, it is a hell of a lot. I'm about to spill all those seeds as I fiddle fart around. It is a hell of a lot easier than getting on your hands and knees and, you know, doing one seed at a time. So yeah, it does, you know, it does seed a little bit extra, but it's not the end of the world. Goes nothing. Direct sowing radishes, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it right on against the line so it gets plenty of water, and then I'll do the other one on the opposite side of the line. And as long as that wheel's turning, it is dropping seeds, believe it or not. Sometimes if the soil is too fluffy, which I'm having a problem with, you might have to just give it a little bit of a bump and it'll keep turning. Either way, it seems to work fantastic. Except for when I don't get all the weeds out. Right. So, I'm done. It is hot. It is a full hat sweat day. Perfect for planting in fall. As a matter of fact, it might be the first day of fall. I don't even know. But what we know is everything is set up. Everything is good. So let me show you how I planted it, and we can kind of see how this is going to unfold over the coming months. Two rows of radish, and then a 3rd row of radish. So remember, we want to kind of clear out those outside edges for a buffer zone. So that's what this row of radishes is for. And then we did 2 rows of turnips, and then 1, 2, 3 rows of spinach. And I actually, believe it or not, I must have seeded with a seeder with spinach last, because that's what it was set up for. And so I don't know if you can see this. That's the spacing that that disc gives. So it's not too bad. Everything else is automatically buried for the most part. So what I'll do is I just come over and I'll go across each. I don't even think I have to, because I'm looking for seeds and I'm not seeing them. But especially like anything that's easy to see, I'll just run my eyes along the row. And if I see something, I'll just sprinkle some soil on it. Nothing major. And then this afternoon, what I'll do is I'll come out and I'll water. And then I'll water. And I don't know, I think we might be getting some rain maybe. Or it might be about to rain in the next couple days, which is kind of why I planned this, so I can get a break from watering. Shouldn't take but probably inside of 5 days for germination. So that puts us around the 25th of September for germination. And then we have a solid month of grow time. So it'll be close. This is getting to be last call for planting outside in coastal North Carolina. You know, if you're further south, you can obviously do a little bit later. If you're further north, you probably missed a boat or close to missing the boat. But we plan to put a cover on that. We have planned to do that, so that's what we are going to continue to do. Now, as far as for the rest of the garden, what I need to do is once things kind of dry out from the big tropical storm we just had, then we're going to come back and we're going to mulch all of these different beds in between the rows and everything else. And then the final thing to do, which should be coming up soon, is the greenhouse. So the greenhouse is empty. It's ready to go. I'm gonna put all those corn stalks in here to dry, and they're gonna sit in here for a couple days and dry out. And then after that, it's go time. A separate video about the greenhouse because that's like a whole different realm. But as far as the garden goes, you know, if you think about doing something and you want to use a cover, think the whole plan through. Think all sides. Think 3D, top, bottom, sides, ins and outs, and start to tweak it. And we'll see how this goes. And this could be something in the future, because what we may find out is that buffer zone may allow us to grow a few other things that we normally couldn't. We're going to find out.